Hello, everyone, and welcome to the world's greatest censored Pokemon TCG show in the world, The Top Cut. I am host Sway Crim, and with me are all four other members of The Top Cut: Kyle Pooka, Michael Pram, Drew Holden, and the Great White Hope, Ben Potter. Now, we took a week off last week, just like we did similarly a couple weeks ago. And really what we're doing is we're kind of letting the city's metagame evolve. We're letting people kind of flesh out the metagame, and then we're going to talk a little bit about these things as as the weeks progress. Now, something really interesting happened recently. That Ho started coming up. Ho actually was piloted originally by, in my opinion, by Kyle Pooka here, and he started playing things like Sigilif, Bouffalant, big basic Pokemon, and things like that, and really kind of dictated how combat worked against these other big basic decks and other EX decks. So really what we started to see a little bit of a trend of here was that you started to see a lot of other players kind of do something similar. You started to see a lot of Sigilif decks using multiple Sigilifs, sometimes even up to 3 and 4. Started seeing Bouffalant really become one of the main attackers in the game. And really this it feels like this format is starting to become dictated by these Pokemon. So that's something that's really interesting that's been going on here, and really that's what we're going to focus on a little bit. And I actually kind of want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Kyle, can you please talk a little bit about your deck?
Not sure if I'm lagging or not.
A little bit, yeah.
It's great. So I don't think I was the one who created the Ho-Oh deck. I definitely wasn't. But I have been using it recently. Pretty much, it's been around for a while, but I think people have realized that you're not supposed to attack with Ho-Oh, which is what people kind of did at first. It's more like your energy accelerator, and then the rest of the Pokemon are what makes the deck. And what makes the deck is that it can be flexible. It can adapt to different matchups. You can run all these different Pokemon. For example, I started off with a deck using mainly just Terrakion and Mewtwo, but then you have Ho-Oh as the energy accelerator. You can get energy from the discard pile with Rebirth, you energy switch, and then you get the power step up. And I also had some other stuff on the side, like I would run Bouffalant. At first, I ran Shaman EX as well, just to kind of knock out Keldeo EX in one hit. Over time, I added Sigilif to the deck, which has helped out a lot. And I actually added a second one to the deck this weekend, and things have been going well. Basically, you've got all these Pokemon, and you say, oh, I'm facing a Blastoise deck. I'm going to go for Bouffalant, Sigilif, Mewtwo, and we're going to ignore the rest of the Pokemon in my deck, because they're not going to be useful in this matchup. If I'm facing a Darkrai deck, alright, I'm going to focus more on Terrakion, because it's weak to fighting. So it's kind of a like 6 corners kind of a deal, where you just kind of attack with whatever you need for the matchup, except there's no more Virizion. Sorry, Drew. It's been replaced by Ho-Oh. And yeah, I mean, I've had a really good run with it. I've won like my last 27 games at cities, 3 cities in a row. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think the deck is anything extraordinary. It just kind of has a chance in every matchup. And a lot of the games are long and drawn out, which I feel gives me the best shot to win. So I've just been using it a lot. I've been lucky here and there, and I think it's a deck you got to watch out for in the future.
Okay, wow, that's actually really interesting. 27 straight wins. I know it's been done before by several other players in the past, but in this format in particular, it seems a little bit difficult to pull off. Now, you mentioned that you weren't the first person to create the Ho deck. Is there somebody that you want to credit for this, or do you just feel like it's been around? No, it's aside from Japan. You know what I'm talking about.
I mean, this deck was around in Battle Roads and Regionals. People had been using it in my area. I think the problem was that it's actually a really difficult deck to build. It's one of those things where you actually have too many options to work with. So you don't know what 60 cards to use. And a lot of the time people would just ended up picking the wrong cards, and it kind of waters the deck down. Doesn't make it as powerful against certain matchups. So I think it's just one of those things where the deck needed enough time to kind of come into its own and people to figure out a list for it. And I think I've gotten to that point. I don't think it's perfect yet, but definitely getting there. It's kind of the same thing with Blastoise Keldeo. I think eventually, once people figure out how to build that deck, it'll be one of the best. But in the early weeks, it was kind of rocky, but it's starting to pick up now.
Now, yeah, really interesting. You mentioned something about how the deck had to kind of create, people had to create the perfect deck list. But it's funny because you actually made the deck list like the day before the tournament, before your first city championship, correct?
Yeah.
Was it just kind of like right place, right time type of deal, or?
When Boundaries Cross came out, I was like, I don't think Keldeo was going to be that good. I think Ho-Oh was going to be good still. So I bought 4 Ho-Ohs off eBay. And then I was like, oops. Looks like Keldeo is actually pretty good. So I was like, I'm out $40. I wasted my money on those. But then I went to Indianapolis, and then I didn't know what to play. So I was just like, I'll put this Ho-Oh together. And my first list wasn't very good. I ended up changing it a lot, but I ended up taking 3rd at the first city I played in. And then I tweaked the list for the 3rd day of that city, and that's where my streak began. So, yeah, it took a lot of tinkering, and this was a deck I've been using for a long time on PTCGO. The idea, I've had it for a while. No, it actually wasn't bad deck money. It was a legitimate deck. I almost actually played it at regionals. I decided not to at the last minute. I never really felt confident with the deck. I always thought you can start with Ho-Oh, you can whiff your Rebirth flips, you can miss an energy switch at some point. So many things can go wrong that I just figured it wasn't a good tournament deck. But eventually I just said, screw it, I'll play it. And it turned out to be a fun deck to play. And it's also pretty good.
Okay, and one final question before we move on. Are you proud of how the format is kind of shifting around this deck? Not necessarily the deck, but just the idea behind the deck, which really revolves around these other Pokemon that really haven't been used very often to attack with. Now, do you feel like you can credit a lot of that to this Ho deck, or do you feel like it's just a natural metagame progression?
I think it was just a natural metagame progression. We saw once Landorus came out, we just saw a bunch of Landorus Mewtwo decks start doing well. Bouffalant, as a result, would be played more just because there's so much of a focus on EXs. I think now we're starting to see less Darkrai decks and more maybe decks around Sigilyph, focus on Bouffalant, lots of Blastoise decks, and even some Ho-Oh decks. But I don't think Darkrai decks will go away. But it is interesting how these big basic decks just kind of came out. I know Jeremy Jalen is someone who's used a deck like Pangea, where it's Tornadus EX with Sigilyph, and you just kind of try to knock out your opponent's Sigilyph counters, and then you just kind of wall them the rest of the game with the safeguard. Because most of these decks, they're running a ton of EXs, and then 2 things that can knock out Sigilyph. And normally there's stuff like Bouffalant, which don't even do a very good job. So you win just by knocking out these normal Pokemon, and then all they have left are EXs, and you just kind of clean up the game. And I think that's a strategy that I've used in my deck as well. I think it's strong for right now, but eventually the metagame will shift. People will realize, all right, we gotta start playing stuff that knocks out Sigilyph. I can't just, kind of get greedy with my Pokemon anymore. And I think we'll see Sigilyph be less and less useful as the format progresses. But for now, it's a really strong card. And that was just kind of the progression from basic EX decks dominating to now Sigilyph doing very well. And next, I think you'll see Sigilyph not doing so well.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for the insight. That was actually really helpful, not only to I'm sure the viewers, but to myself as well, because honestly, I haven't been playing this season, and this really gave me a good idea of where the format is right now, and what I can expect to see in the coming weeks, if not months. So It'd be nice to see you make kind of like a primer for the deck, like maybe some of its matchups, because I think that it's one of the harder decks that it has to be one of the harder decks to play. It has to be one of the harder decks to really um, figure out. And I'm sure that a lot of people would be interested in seeing something like that. But either way, there are three other members of the top cut who have not had much of a chance to talk yet. And Drew, I know that that you haven't been playing very much this season either. I know that you haven't had much of a chance to play in cities. Has that still remained the case?
Yeah, I actually haven't played a game at all this year. So yeah, that still remains the case. I did not go anywhere this weekend, but I look forward to watching Kyle's matches whenever he gets around to doing them. So there's always that.
Okay. Now, do you have any plans to attend any city championships or regional championships?
I think I will be able to attend the next regionals. I'm not sure where it is. I think it's kind of far away.
St.
I'll have to look at that. St. Louis. So yeah, that's pretty far, but I think I'll be able to attend. As far as cities go, I think the ones that were close to me already happened. I dropped the ball there, but I'll look into it as things go on. I have a week off coming up. I took off the last week in December with all my rest of my vacation, so I might try to hit something up around that weekend.
All right, all right. Now, since I want to ask you another question, just so you don't have to stay quiet for another few minutes, do you feel like do you feel like you're starting to get a grasp of this format? Do you feel like you could actually play in this format tomorrow and really kind of have a good chance to win these tournaments, or do you feel like this format's actually become really difficult to predict and that a player such as yourself or myself who hasn't really played much would be at a severe disadvantage?
I actually feel like I have a kind of good grasp. I played Kyle the one day instead of when we did the show, and I saw how he used like a bunch of decks like Buffalon and Sigalith. Like I had never seen those cards before, and I could immediately tell they were awesome. So I kind of got to see that kind of thing. And this Ho-Oh deck, it really does remind me of Six Corners, so I think I would be able to play it pretty decently. Maybe not as well as Kyle, obviously, but I think I could just jump right in and do pretty decently with it.
Okay. Okay. Now, Potter and Pram, you guys both attend the same cities for the most part, or you guys attended the same tournaments. You guys live in a similar area.
Yeah.
Did you guys attend tournaments these last couple weekends? I'll ask Pram first.
Yeah. I went to man, was it 4, 3, 4, something like that. Cities. I used Ho-Oh for the last two, but I used Blastoise Keldeo for the ones before that. So
Okay.
I kind of have like a good range of decks. Like Ho-Oh's pretty good. I like it a lot. It's a lot of like freeform though. Like you kind of just go, this feels like the right move. Let's just do it. Right, and it's kind of like, so like when people are like, how do you beat this match? I'm just like, you just play the game, and that's pretty much how you do it. Because like, a lot of it is like the whole deck is just basically just like high on fundamentals. Like you got to know where to put your energies. You got to know like when to go. Well, you got to know when to gamble. You got to know what they're gonna do. So it's just things like that. So like just having good fundamentals with the Ho-Oh deck, you'll do pretty well. You also have to make the list right. Like I know Kyle and my lists are slightly different, but relatively the core is pretty much the same. We just kind of have some differences on like maybe like 5 different cards or something like that. But yeah, Ho-Oh is really good. I went like 9 and 2 for matches over 2 cities. I would have made with one top 8 or one top 4, but both of them were top 4 cuts. So unfortunately, I got 5th at one of them. So that ended that. And so yeah. Also, Blastoise Keldeo is actually really good. I felt like the problem with Blastoise Keldeo, every game came down to N, where it was just like, I N you to 1. I hope you don't draw anything. Ah, you did. I lose. Or they N me to 1. I hope I draw something. Ah, I didn't. I lose. So it's like that's where that deck comes into play. It's like, and it just gets like, it's so N reliant on like how its matchups come out. So that's like the main downfall for Blastoise.
Okay. Now you started playing in quite a few cities recently. So does that mean that you're kind of in the zone again? You're in the groove where you're going to be attending quite a few tournaments and trying to get to your 400 points?
Yeah, I'm the 100 points from Worlds is a pretty bit nice handicap I got. Though it's starting to get scary when you only top cut one city after like 5 attempts. So that's a little scary. But I have this Chicago Marathon coming up, and that should. Yeah, I just want to top cut 4 cities. Really, not asking for too much, right? But
right.
We'll see.
Okay. And finally, the you mentioned that the Blastoise deck was a little inconsistent or whatnot, and the Ho deck is kind of the deck that you like the most out of the two. Does that mean that you're for the time being you're focused more on the Ho deck, and you feel like the Ho deck's going to be the deck that you're going to be playing in the upcoming cities?
I wouldn't call Blastoise inconsistent. It's more like you can easily like get a game stolen from you. Like that's kind of what it is.
Okay.
Like, there's been like a lot of cases where you get end to four, but you don't have a supporter, and Beach is prized, and then you just lose. Whereas Ho-Oh is just like, you had me to 4, but my guys do a lot of damage for 2 energy. So, like, maybe I'll take a prize here. Maybe I'll force you into a situation where you have to end or else you lose. Things like that. And then it just all piles up to where, like, your early game board presence is just much stronger with Ho-Oh. And it just kind of, like, snowballs into where your end game presence is roughly on even ground with Keldeo, I would say.
Okay, so does that mean that you're focusing on Ho-Oh though?
Yeah. I would say Ho-Oh would be the better deck if you can play it correctly. However, I've seen a lot of people try, and it's not pretty.
Okay, and right after I ask Potter something, I'm gonna ask you one more question because I think that's gonna lead pretty well into the next topic. Now, Potter, have you also been going to the same city championships as Pram?
Yes, I've gone to the same ones as him, and I've gone to 2 more. So, I've gone to like 5, and I think he's gone to 3.
Okay. And
or he's gone to 4, and I've gone to 6. I'm not sure, but I pretty much go X2 every single tournament. I went X1 one of the tournaments and got top 8. I actually went X2 at the last tournament, but there were only 29 masters, so I got 7th. Nothing. Pat on the back. But a lot of the games
good effort.
Yeah. A lot of the games I've been losing just like unluckiness, I guess. But I think like Darkrai is kind of susceptible to that kind of thing. So I don't really like Darkrai Mewtwo that much anymore, and that's what I played for like all the first ones. Except I played Ho-Oh once first, and I went like 3-3 just because like I didn't have the right build and I wasn't playing the deck right. But then the very last one I went to, I played Ho-Oh, and I just got unlucky in the first game, and I lost like the next game because I prized both my Ho-Ohs, so that's pretty bad. But yeah, I like Ho-Oh. I think it's a good deck. I don't like Darkrai Mewtwo that much anymore. I wouldn't say there was one deck that I'm specifically focusing on. Like I'm considering quite a few different things. Like maybe Hammers might be better now because like Ho-Oh gets more popular and stuff like Klinkang is getting more popular. So that could be like easily, a metagame play down the line if things start to change in that direction. But I think I'm gonna play Ho-Oh next, and then after that, when I get to the marathon, we'll see.
All right. Now, is your next tournament gonna be the Chicago Marathon?
No, I'm going to one on Saturday in Pennsylvania, so that should be fun.
Okay, cool. Now, before we move on to the next topic, I do want to ask you guys to please start asking us questions on our Facebook page. I'm about to link you guys to it right now. And really, whatever questions you guys might have, go ahead and ask them there, and we'll get to them, and we'll try to answer them as best as we can. So that's the link right there. Hopefully, you guys have some good questions for us. Now, I want to ask you guys what you guys feel is going to become one of the deck or okay, I know that Blastoise is one of the decks to beat, and I know that in most of our opinions here, that the new basic deck that I mean, for all intents and purposes, we'll just call the Ho deck, is really one of the other decks to beat. It's one of the other decks that really does provide you with a really good chance of winning the city championship. So I want to ask you guys if you guys feel like there's any other decks that are true contenders. I'm not asking about decks that could potentially win, but I'm talking about true contenders, decks that you guys would highly consider playing yourselves at the city championships. And Pram, I'm gonna start with you.
Yeah. As like Darkrai decks fall out of popularity, I would think like Kling Klang and Hydreigon come like more popular because like if you can't run Sableye and Enhance Hammer, then those decks just kind of go wild, right? It spins out of control pretty quickly, and so I think like if there's too much decline in Darkrai Sableye specifically, then you're gonna see a I don't know if you're gonna see it, but like there's a option for where Kling Klang and Hydreigon decks can just kind of push themselves to the top really fast.
Okay. Now I know that a couple of weeks ago when we first talked about the format and whatnot, we mentioned that the Hammers version of Darkrai really wasn't going to be able to stand up to the pressure from decks like Blastoise and other energy accelerants. Is that still the case in your opinion?
Yeah. I think like the hammers, like crushing hammers and all that, like there's so much energy acceleration and like crushing hammer really doesn't do too much to Ho. It's like, oh well, you're putting energies in my discard. Well, that's convenient. So it's kind of like that. But I think if you run like 1 or 2 Enhance Hammers and then you also run Sableye, then you just destroy these Kling Klang and Hydreigon decks. So not so much on Hydreigon. It hurts it a little bit, but like more on the Kling Klang side. So like if you see Kling Klang get buffed, then you'll see like Darkrai get buffed, and we're just reaching like this kind of like never-ending cycle of like decks that are constantly rising and falling if like these trends hold.
Okay, that's good insight. Thanks a lot. Potter, you're next. Say it. What's the question?
Decks that are good that I think that I would consider playing that could win.
Yes.
I was just trying to. The question was like, Mike just went on forever. I definitely think Ho-Oh's in there. I don't think there's anything bad about turn to Night Spear. Keldeo's pretty good. I like Keldeo. I kind of am liking the scoop up version a lot, just because like if you hit a heads on one of those things, it's pretty cool. But it's only okay. Eels. I actually kind of like Eels a lot based on where the metagame's going, and I considered playing it last week.
Now,
But
do you mean
yeah,
Eels with
like
Plaza, or-
less Landorus there is, like the better Eels is kind of. You know, you have less to fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those three like stand out for me. I wouldn't really want to play like a Kling Klang deck. I'm just too scared.
Rayquaza version, or do you mean another version?
I'm sorry, I lagged, but I think you said the Rayquaza version. Yeah, I definitely think the Rayquaza version. There's a little bit of nonsense. People talking about like 4 Bouffalants, but that's not really that good. But definitely Rayquaza is pretty powerful. Also, it's not going to get hit by Garchomps and stuff anymore. So that's pretty nifty.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, Kyle, I want to ask you the same question.
I do agree with Pram that Kling Klang is another deck that's probably going to see a lot more play. As a result, I think we're kind of shifting towards, besides Blastoise, which obviously can just rain down water energy, all of these decks are focusing on special energy again. It's kind of a weird thing that started to happen last format, and now it's like, oh, Kling Klang, you are very dependent on Prism and Blend. Enhanced Hammer is pretty good against that. Ho-Oh, you're pretty dependent on Double Colorless. Same thing with all these other big basic decks. Again, Enhanced Hammer is pretty good against that. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of becoming really matchup based. Depending on what you face, your deck becomes a good or a bad play for the day. Decks that run Enhanced Hammer obviously are not going to be good against Blastoise for the most part, because it's all water. But if you run into the big basic decks, then yeah, those are going to be good. So as long as people don't play Enhanced Hammer, I think Kling Klang is a really, really good deck that you're going to see win a lot more. I think it has been popping up more recently, honestly. It's been doing pretty well. Other decks that I think are going to be good, I mean, the big basic decks are always going to be strong. Like the Landorus Tornadus Mewtwo deck with Boufflant. That is a really good deck. It's really strong. Landorus, I mean, unless you're facing a Keldeo deck, Landorus actually does not get knocked out in one hit by like anything. So they take advantage of that. They run Max Potion, and then it only takes one to attack with Hammerhead. So I really like that. It's just an overall strong deck. I think people are going to start running more Trakians in that kind of a deck to deal with Sigilyph. Because like we've been saying, Sigilyph is going to be good too. And I also feel like Hydreigon is just a really good deck. It's really good against Blastoise. And it's good against a lot of stuff, honestly. The only thing it has problems with is Landorus. So, again, matchup based. If you face against, you're going to be fine. If you face, the fighting decks with your Hydreigon deck, you're probably not going to have a good time.
Okay, now, Hydreigon and Kling Klang actually, they kind of, I don't want to say they occupy the same spot in the format or anything like that, but they're very similar in how they perform. Where do you think the difference is going to lie between these two decks, and why one deck might become more popular than the other, or might rise higher than the other?
I think Kling Klang is more susceptible to the Enhanced Hammer kind of thing. It attacks with Keldeo more than Darkrai. That's kind of the difference between the two decks. Whereas Hydreigon has, first of all, it has Sableye and Dark Patch. So those Hammer decks don't do as much to that deck. As long as you just get set up, you can just Dark Patch, attack with Darkrai, Max Potion your Darkrai, and then it's fine. You beat the Hammer time decks for the most part, whereas Kling Klang wouldn't. So, and the difference is Kling Klang would beat those Landorus decks. So it's kind of the trade-off you have to think about.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks a lot. Drew, I know, again, you were in a similar boat as me, so just come up with something, man. Talk.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, these guys named most of the big decks. I would say we might see people just refine their list. I know a lot of people like to stick with the same decks over and over. I think we're going to see like the tech cards sort of become more selective for people. Maybe not so much the deck choice not as important per se. That Enhanced Hammers they're talking about. Boufflant is a huge card. If you're not playing, you should look at it. Sigilyph is a huge card. If you aren't playing it, you should probably think about it. And even things like, I think it's called Muleta as a Sigilyph counter, just stuff like that. I think tech cards could be a huge development in this format.
Wait, what is it called?
Meloetta.
Meloetta. I thought it was for one Psychic and max out Sigilyph.
The one with Psychic, right? The one that named Psychic. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool. I dig it.
And it also knocks out a Mewtwo if it gets big enough.
Yeah, exactly. That's
4 energy.
Yeah. Sometimes people go ham with Mewtwo. You just go, Meloetta, gotcha.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you guys for your closing thoughts, whatever you guys might have to talk about regarding city championships. You guys might want to mention, the Chicago Marathon or whatnot. But in the meantime, please, one more time, go ahead and ask us any questions you guys have on Facebook, because we're going to go to those right after a short break after these guys issue their thoughts. Drew, you can go first.
Thoughts on what, man?
Exactly. You have no thoughts on this because you ain't playing this. I'll let you go first. You can just say go for it.
I don't know. All right. Everyone play Excadrill. It's a really good deck. I don't know,
All
man.
right, woo! I'll stay up. Woo! All right, Ben, you're up.
For me?
Yes, the Potter.
Okay. Man, this is confusing. And this format's a little confusing. I don't even know what to play that much, but
Internet choked. All
just
right.
go with something you're
Never
playing
mind on Potter. We'll
until
go to
things get more
Kyle.
defined. Maybe they are defined for you guys, but
Huh. We just lost 3 people at once?
hello?
No?
Yep.
I got disconnected.
I think everyone did.
Except for Kyle.
The screen went down.
Yeah, except for me for some reason.
Yeah, Kyle stayed on the line.
That's all your internet can handle.
You know what this tells me? You 3, your internet suck.
Yeah.
Kyle's internet is somehow good. I don't know how that works out, right?
All right. Are we still recording?
Yeah. I mean, it was only like a second, so
All right. Cool.
it did not give me enough time to go in and out.
All right. Deal. Perfect. Potter, you may continue.
Where did I leave off?
Just start all over, brother.
Okay, good. I was going down a weird road. Oh man, cities. It's been pretty fun. I'm not really confident that I'm gonna do that well. I don't even know what to say, man. Just skip me.
Yeah. Question.
Alright. Look at this.
All right,
No,
just
wait. I want to hear something
gonna-
out of the Chicago Marathon out of either Pram or Pooka.
All right,
At least
gonna drop
advertisers.
it down. Excedril is really good. I played it on Monday. I had a lot of fun with it. You know, you go like Excedril, hooligans, woo, heads, yes, got it, and get it back, woo, yeah, and then crushing hammer with Excedril. Oh my god, it's actually really funny to just go heads, crushing hammer, bring it back. So Excedril is one of my new pet decks, thanks to Drew. Let's see, in terms of actual cities, we got Chicago. We got the marathons coming up. You know, Chicago has one. I think Texas has one. I don't know about California. Probably has one. Florida has one. New Jersey has one. They're all over the place, and they're all taking place between Christmas and New Year's. So if you can go to one, you should probably check it out. It's fun. You
New
know,
Jersey's is shorter.
yeah,
so you guys know.
New Jersey's
It's
a
like
little shorter.
3
but,
or 4 days.
It's still like a good time, you know, if you like playing Pokemon, you like hanging out, and it's on break for everyone, like except if you work at like maybe the food industry.
Hospital.
Yeah, hospitals, food industry, hotels. But if you're anyone else, you're probably off. So, you know, go ahead and
I
attend.
would just like to remark I'm 4-1 versus Mike in Ho-Oh mirror match testing.
Oh,
I would like to announce I'm 1-0 in tournament test.
I would like to put an asterisk by that to let everybody know there were 0 Ho-Ohs in my deck.
Well, your prizes are part of your deck list.
They were all prized.
Anyways, yeah. So go have fun at cities, and I'll leave
All
it
right.
to Kyle.
Chicago
I'm a winner.
Marathon. When are you gonna head down there to Chicago for?
Either the 26th or the 27th. We're not sure yet.
Yeah,
All right.
a little after
Cool.
Christmas.
And you guys gonna be there for all of them?
Yeah, a little after Christmas. We get back on the 6th, I believe. That's a Sunday.
Best of luck.
Whatever day
That's-
Sunday is, I think it's the 6th.
Guess we'll have to find a new 2 vs 2 StarCraft partner for that.
Return
For
on
that
the
week.
6th.
You can just practice your 1v1s.
All right, Kyle, you're up, brother.
All right. I think for me, cities are pretty much like done in terms of me trying to win them. I have 3 wins and a 3rd place.
What a cocky
So-
guy.
I'm just
It's
saying I don't know if
being
I'm going to be
realistic.
I'm going to be playing more or if I'm just going to record and try to stream. So I would say pay attention. I'm going to try to stream as many as I can from Chicago. I might play in a couple just to kind of get a couple more points, but it's kind of intimidating, saying that going into a tournament, the only way I can get more points is to make the finals. So it's almost like, do I bother driving there just to try to make the finals?
You have 180?
Yeah.
I was in that situation
What?
last year.
A
It's
baller.
It's like you enter the tournament, but you're just like, I guess.
Shut up. Must be nice.
I am looking forward to seeing how the format progresses because I think it has evolved so far. People are trying to just improve upon their decks every week. I think it's a fairly healthy format in terms of deck building, and it's starting to get a little better in terms of how the games actually play out. It's not great, and still deciding a lot of stuff. But for the most part, I've had a lot of really long, drawn-out strategic games over the past couple weeks. So I do like the way the format is unfolding. I would just encourage people to try out new stuff. That's kind of what I did. I just showed up and I built my deck at the tournament. And then after the tournament, I was like, all right, this is what I need to change. And then I've actually changed something between every tournament. So just keep adapting to the metagame. Just try to have some fun. You can run like 8 different decks right now, and you'll probably have a good shot at winning. That's just the way it is right now. I think it was like that last year at Cities too. There were a ton of good decks. Mm-hmm. Cities is always the best part of the season, I think. And this is no exception. So go out there, play, have fun. And I'm going to try to stream from some cities. And I'll just take the day off and do some commentary. So look forward to that.
All right. Okay. So I guess right now we're going to take a short break. Go ahead and enjoy some fine tunes in the meantime, and then we'll be back and start answering your guys' questions. See you in a little bit.